to say. They're usually pretty full. And yes, we could use additional shelters, and that is another thing that OHAPP is taking a look at, is if we can justify a need for more emergency shelters, and if so, where would they be? Because one of our concerns is that that they don't stay so long in an emergency shelter. Prayfully, it's only 30 days and we can get them into some other program that would make sense, or residential program. And secondly, I think more importantly for me, being a grandmother, I don't want to see kids displaced. And I say that as a grandmother, as a mother, and as an advocate. I don't want to see kids displaced from their school. They're already dealing with trauma, being not in a home, and then to be additionally being far removed from their schools and their communities. And as we return to schools face to face and all that, we want to see kids be as close to a familiar setting as possible. So we are considering all of those very, very important issues as we plan out what the next steps are for our emergency and our community response to homelessness.
You actually kind of led into the next question we did receive from a chat. If OHAPP plans have any plans regarding securing additional potential homeless shelter sites, which I believe you just answered already too. And you mentioned, you mentioned something that really struck me, is that, you mentioned that you have grandchildren. I'm thinking of your grandchildren being in that position, right? And that kind of is something that affects you. And I feel like, and for many of those joining us today in social work, that it's that connection that you have with family and loved ones that help drive for the passion and everything and moving forward. Definitely, you have this connection with people in the community. And so I think social work is definitely, and people in your position who are working in these nonprofits and organizations, definitely your call for service is amplified because of your community work and because of your relationships with family and loved ones. So thank you for all of that, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Mr. Arthur. I know that you're a graduating senior. I know we said early congratulations already. Ms. Sarah mentioned earlier that OHAPP is kind of it's like the middle of the road between policy, practice, and academia, which basically describes, it's perfect for you as a soon-to-be graduate, as somebody who will be pursuing the profession of social work. So can you tell us a little bit about your experience interning under OHAPP? It's very exciting to be part of something that's just getting off the ground, essentially, and addressing a concern in our community that is widespread. And I think some people realize, and I think you highlighted that in your presentation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience so far?
Sure. So let me start from the way beginning, when I needed a new placement site. My last placement site, of course, because of COVID, liability issues, we have to change. And I believe that when God makes me wait for something, it's because he's preparing something bigger for me. And so in the beginning of my social work journey, I never thought about homelessness as a population that I was open to doing, until I got into OHAPP and I started to realize that a lot of times in a practicum side, you can't always rely on the books. That most of the times, all it takes is really your ethics and where you stand, of course, with your code of ethics with NASW, right? And when they say you can't always rely on the books, it's because a lot of times, like when Ms. Nededog asked me a question, I just can't pull it out of the social policy textbook and cite it. I have to really think critically, like if I was in this position, if I was this person, how would I want to be serviced? What would happen if I have to take care of a family? What if that was my family, right? And so really working with OHAPP, my experience so far is these individuals and residents, they trust us, that they know that they trust us, that we will help them. And of course, in my experience, we can't give false reaffirmation. We can't give false hope. But all we can do to, tell them is, hey, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help facilitate your choices so that we can direct you to where you need to be, right? And so my experiences has been everywhere, which is a great thing. As in, I do a lot of macro work where I see how an agency is built. Like for an example, like Sarah said, we first started at King's Shirley's restaurant until we got the lease agreement ready for our office. So I was in the process with Ms. Georgie, helping her do the budgeting report, staffing pattern, them introducing me how to start an agency, which is great. Someone my age probably can experience that sometimes, you know? And with the micro work, getting to being able to talk to some of the residents at Global Dorms, you know, was also interesting as well. And it really shows me how to have a better insight because, you know, I walked into a practicum where nothing was fully established yet. Everything was coming to play. So looking at this agency grow as I'm growing too, as a future social worker, and looking at the population growing in homelessness, it was really God's way of showing me that, hey, this is what I have in store for you. So really, I think I'm thankful every day to be here. I mean, is it a challenge to work with the homeless population? Absolutely. Only because a lot of times I feel pressured that, you know, we have to respond to these crisis situations, and you know, there's not much of us here, but we can do what we have to do, you know. My favorite part so far about being part of OHAPP is just being more knowledgeable. Not gonna lie, I'm one of those social work students where I try my best to digest everything, right? To know everything, learn everything. But in this agency, I'm learning every single day, you know, new things, brand new things. And yes, it's a good experience.
Thank you so much for that. And we're really excited to see where your social work journey takes you. So, you know, best of luck as you finish off your last semester with the university. And thank you for your work on this. You know, it's, like I said, big endeavor. This is a fairly new organization. And so just being able to be a part of it is a great experience. As a reminder,
and if I can address one more thing, really, is that, you know, with homelessness, you know, we should never criminalize those who are homeless. We should never think that homelessness is a part of neglect, because, you know, with homelessness, people try every day, you know, and it's true. We shouldn't criminalize homelessness, and we shouldn't think of it as a child neglect, because sometimes we can't blame someone for their poverty, because it can happen to anyone. Ms. Georgie, do you want to share anything?
Yes, I'm excited to see Arthur's journey with the program and to offer referral services to see his first clients move into their permanent home.
Thank you so much, Ms. Georgie. And I know that Arthur earlier introduced you as being part of community affairs with the governor's office. And so
Yes.
another thing that Ms. Nededog had brought up was that, and going into what Arthur was saying, was that when some individuals are homeless, we need to remember that they may have had good jobs at some point, but due to whatever circumstance or some circumstance, they're now at this point. And so I'm sure with community affairs, you've interacted with that. And so how has your experiences with our island community impacted the way you contribute to the growth of this organization?
Oh, one of the most important things that we really focus on is getting them the services and assistance that they need at that time. So, for example, if they are homeless for that morning, my most important thing is to get them to a permanent home within that day. So once I reach that before the end of the work hour, I actually feel less worried and concerned about them. And so once they move into their home for about 30 days or for 90 days, during that time frame, I would also offer them services of looking for work, getting insurance, public assistance, clothing, anything that they need, bedding, food in that area. And then what I do is monitor how it's been for them for 6 months. And then within that 6 months, I could see the growth that they have come from the day that they called to say that were homeless. And then from the time that they moved into an empty permanent home, and then to where they start to live their life. And so it's rewarding for ourselves and also for the families or individuals who are currently going through that situation.
Thank you so much, Ms. Georgie, for that insight.
Thank
I do
you.
want to remind everyone, please share your comments, questions in the chat. You can either message me directly or share it to the chat for everyone to see. This is definitely a great platform for us to discuss. I did want to talk a little bit about the pandemic because I know this has definitely played a pivotal role in this organization. I saw an interview with Kaylee with Ms. Nededog earlier that we did see an increase in homelessness during the pandemic. And of course, while the global dormitories is there, of course, we have to consider things like social distancing, which she discussed in the interview. And that was part of the discussion about expanding. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how the pandemic has impacted the homelessness on Guam, and how has it changed the way we help our island residents who are currently without homes? How has the pandemic forced us to kind of shift gears, if at all?
Thank you for that good question. And as I shared earlier, the pandemic has truly changed our lives and affected all of us. I mean, I just don't know anyone that hasn't had, the pandemic has had some impact or hasn't had an impact in their lives. So that's something that's very clear in both in all of our sectors, our nonprofit sector, governmental sector, and our private business sector. So I think everyone is trying to make that assessment to, determine what are going to be the next steps. I think it's truly divine intervention that we have a healthcare provider at the helm of our government right now, and that's Governor Liu being a nurse, but also the great sensitivity that this administration has. And I say that not only because I work for the administration now, but I really do believe that they have a great sensitivity to this population who are homeless and at risk of homelessness. And so in my many years of service, I think it's really, again, a godsend that we do have folks that are at the helm and even at the legislature and at all different levels in our community. I really, I have to say, sometimes I'm moved to tears at the kinds of things that our leaders and just the people that are running programs are saying and doing. It's incredible. People are being much more, I think, resourceful, creative, and collaborative, reaching out to different entities that perhaps they weren't connecting with before, but are connecting with now. The mayors are even more, they've always been important, and in our field of human services, they're like, the mayors are one of the first folks that we go to when we're trying to develop new programming or trying to understand a situation. And they continue to provide vital information to us and access to this vulnerable population. So I just say that really, I used to say the world's a different place every 3 months, but really the world's a different place like every week.
Mhm.
And so we need to get used to the fact that things are constantly changing. We need to roll with it. We need to help our families and our communities roll with these changes and to be prepared, to be better prepared to, deal with the very difficult times like we're experiencing now. So the pandemic has, I think, thrown us into a very interesting situation where we've had to reevaluate our own family assets. And I'm not talking about not just our financial, but what are our resources and our talents and our needs within our families? Do we have land around our house that we can plant and that we can grow things? Do we have neighbors that we can help support, or that can help support us to do caregiving, or that we can join in meals and we could share? It's really in a way very joyful to see the creativity, the resourcefulness, the resiliency of our people. We're not out of the woods. We need to stay focused on doing that. Look internally at our communities and our families and see what is it that we're really great at, that we can share, that we can nurture, and what are the areas that are weak that we need to work on. And I think that as social workers, we need to embrace that and see what we can do to truly help uplift or move people forward based on what they see as their resources and their needs. It's really very much the same in some ways as it has been our challenges over the decades, but there's just some new dimensions to it. And I think the pandemic has caused all of us to stop in our tracks and to reflect on what is truly good about our island, our communities, and our family that we can help nurture, and what are some of the areas that we really need to work on. Thank you for the awesome question.
And thanks, Ms. Nededog, because you did mention a key word I think that's critical just in discussing the COVID pandemic, resiliency, right? And so in terms of helping those who are currently homeless, I think resiliency is already a big concept, an important concept moving forward. But thinking about how we're moving forward with these barriers in COVID, it's amazing to see all the work that your organization has been able to do and continues to do. So thank you for all of that. And also thinking about uplifting, right? Uplifting of individuals and their families. Like, I think that really it's centered, that's what your organization is centered in. So once again, kudos to you guys for all that you've done already. I know that part of the facility and part of the resources available at the Global Dorm is the Student Learning Center, which is something that I think is a critical example of how we are uplifting individuals who are staying in the facility, and we're helping promote resiliency in terms of education and information. So would you like to talk a little bit more about that facility?
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad that you brought that up, the whole learning environment, because one of the first things that happened when I came to OHAPP was I had the joy of being present when Jay Arreola and the Guam Bar Association came down with all these computers. And it was like, yay, because now the kids get to do their homework, distance learning. The parents or the adults there get to do their job searches. And I'll just tell you, it was, this has really brought a lot of, I think, needed attention to the fact that we do have populations on our island that really do need more than just a hand up, but they really need the support and the contributions of everyone. And so I just want to say that's just one example. My class of 74 at JFK donated thousands of dollars of different things to help offset, the cost of at the global dorms for persons who are homeless. And like restaurants like Three Squares, they donated so much to them for added meals and snacks during the holidays. And even at Gumatrin Kiladot, where Manumku are, and I go down there because sometimes I feel like our Manumku or our seniors that are there are forgotten. They feel like, okay, you guys got a house down there and that's it. They might not be homeless, but they surely are not always connected to our community. So for those of us that feel a little bit sad, though we're not seeing our friends and family, there are people down there that really don't see a lot of folks. So visits down there and just giving them, special treats is great. So we gave them gift certificates for Kmart, for a couple of other places. So I think that also is just one of the wonderful things that can be done and has been done at Global. It's given our community an opportunity to give what we have. We might not have a whole lot right now, but sometimes that extra $5 or $10 gift certificate to Payless or Kmart goes a long way. So people have that to share. I assure you, you're going to get that back a dozen times over, 10 times over, whatever $5 or $10 you can give for gift certificates or whatever that you could do. And so that's what I've seen, which again has moved me to tears, is a lot of love that our people have for each other, and perfect strangers, but there's a lot of love there. And so I think that's one thing we can promote is, let's try to keep people at home. Let's try to keep families together. Let's try to promote love and understanding, nonviolence, and that anger that gets people, all bent out of shape, and they land up kicking somebody out of the house, or they land up wanting not to be at home. What is it that we could do to keep people at home, keep people feeling safe and happy? And that's really, I think that's what the social workers, I think, bring to their families, to their clients, and to our community, is that sense of love and hope and support. So let's just keep doing that, because that's really what we all need right now, is just that understanding and make sure we're maintaining the dignity of all those who find themselves in unfortunate situations. So let's take care of our kids, our elderly, our persons with disabilities, most especially, but truly everyone needs that love and understanding and support, because anyone could, feel so desperate or hopeless that they'll quit their jobs or leave their homes or leave their families. And that's what we don't want. We want to see our families stay together as much as possible. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, and for that very inspiring, those inspiring words as well. I think that it truly makes a difference when you think of it from that perspective. And hopefully everybody who joined us today takes your words, and we can see greater action within our community as well. It looks like we'll be wrapping up in just a couple of minutes. So as a reminder, if you have any questions or comments, please share them in the chat. Also, I don't know if you guys would like to share any contact information in the chat, that if anybody has questions coming up or wants to go hold of you, if you could share that in the chat as well. So say after today's breakout session, if they want to get a hold of the organization, they definitely.
Go back to.
Can we screen share a slide so that we can give you guys the contact information of us, our email and number?
Sure.
For our audience watching, you can go ahead and screenshot, take a photo, so that if you need to contact me or Miss Sarah or Miss Georgie, you can do so. Okay. So I'll
Sure, you
screen
should
share
be
real
able
quick.
to share screen now.
Okay. Our hours of operation, of course, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Weekends if necessary and urgent. Our location will be above Mayor's Council in Agana, next to the gym. Our contact information, you guys are free to take a photo of it. Me and Miss Sarah's information. Okay.
We have a lot of
So
thank
hopefully
yous and excellent presentations in the comments as well. So I did want to share that with you, that we're getting lots of great presentations. So thank you for all the information you offered. I guess right now looks like we don't have any questions, but I'm sure everyone took photos of the contact information and may reach out to you later. But why don't we give each of you a couple of minutes to say some closing words before we go back to the main session.
first.
Yes, hi, I would just like to thank you for this opportunity to share and collaborate on what we've all been experiencing through the pandemic and how we can move forward and help our island out. Thank you very much.
And yes, and that to also be mindful, like NASW Code of Ethics, right? Is that really in the homelessness, it's really important that we understand how we should respect one's dignity and worth, because you may never know who's homeless. You may never know the person next to you, maybe someone who's seeking a home and is scared to share it. And the last one I always stand for really is the importance of having human relationships, regardless of the nationality, regardless of the sexual orientation, you know, because like I said, you may never know the next person you might see may be seeking help for finding a home. Thank you so much. This is Arthur Paulino signing out.
Never a boring moment here. I just want to thank NASW again for ensuring that we have the annual regional training conference as we've had for many, many years. And I just really appreciate all those that have participated in the conference so far. I know we have just a couple of more hours and we're done for this year. I look forward to a face-to-face in another year maybe, or sometime later on this year. And I really encourage everyone to stay healthy, stay safe, spread the love, and constantly take a look at how we're doing in our families, how we're doing in our communities, and connect with each other and see what it is that we can do to contribute to keeping our families together, keeping our communities safe, but also participatory in society. Because oftentimes people, they want to get out. They don't feel connected. And you'll see this with many of our populations, our troubled youth, our elderly, our veterans. And so reaching out to them, and I don't think there's anyone here that doesn't have a friend or a family member that's a veteran, or someone who is a young person or an older person. We have access to all of these different populations. And I don't know that we always appreciate that we have such a great impact on them. So please, know that all of you are role models. All of you have an effect on someone's life. And I just appreciate all the good work that social workers do, and all of our community, and hang in there, okay? And let's connect. And if I can ever be of service or resource to you, and if you have any ideas or suggestions for OHAPP, we're open to listening to that, and we want to collaborate with you. See, Jules Mossy, thank you, NASW, and thank you, Amanda. You're such an awesome facilitator. Love
Thank you so much, Mr. I actually do have one more question before we head up to the rain room. We still have time. So you mentioned about collaboration and connection, and so this question is related. Does OHAPP go out into the community to connect with those who seek donation on the streets to see if they are homeless and need some assistance? So I guess the question is centering on how does OHAPP get its word out of its mission and help our residents?
Definitely, I think, when we think of homeless, we think about, oftentimes we'll think about those people that we see that are visible out in the streets that are collecting money. And so we do have providers that do outreach on a regular basis, primarily Catholic Social Services. That is their job, and they do it very well. They're constantly out there. We also try to stay connected with this group of people to find out what exactly is happening. And of course, as many of you, because we're all social workers, we want to grab them, put them in our car and take them home, right? And so we're always looking for ways we can help them to get into a safe environment, including those that are out there. And as some of you might already know, is that every person also has a right to their self-determination. In other words, they have to consent. to participating in services and in programs. And that's why it takes a lot of energy and a lot of heart and passion to get to those folks that may not readily see that there are issues that can be resolved in some other way other than being out there, and that maybe we can help, getting that message to them that maybe there are some other ways in which they can deal with whatever's going on with them. So it's not a easy job. It can be quite difficult. And as we've said earlier, it's very complex dealing with homelessness. But if there's anything anyone can do, when you do see folks that are out there, please reach out and see, and if there's, see what you can do to support them. And if you have any ideas or they have specific things that you think we could do, let us know. But yes, that's the tough group that's out there on the streets right now. So let's show our love to them and put our heads together and see if we can talk them into coming in. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sarah. So just as a reminder, we shared the contact information earlier on the screen. I'm sure that if you need the contact information, you can message to us and we can pass your information over to Ms. Sarah, Mr. Art, or Ms. Georgie for sure. But once again, I do want to thank OHAPP for being a part of this breakout session and for providing this great information. I think this presentation was definitely insightful and really captured all the work that OHAPP has done and will continue to do. So it was really exciting to be your moderator today and to participate in this discussion with you all. I truly appreciate it. At this time, we're going to go ahead and move back to the main room. Some of the other sessions.
Hi, Josh. Happy weekend. Happy social fun.
Weekend. So some of the sessions are still going on right now, so you can jump in as to see the closing parts, or you can go to the main room and join us for the rest of the conference. But thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.